Hello. I want to talk about passion, how to attain it and sustain it. I live an absolutely dream life right now in just every way. And I get to do something that I'm passionate about. I get to do it every day, and it's just wonderful. But sometimes I don't have as much energy as I'd like. I would like to be able to go from dawn to dusk and just full bore.
Well, the most important thing that we want to give you is don't be so concerned at closing the gap as you are concerned at just pointing yourself in the right direction and making your way there. In other words, it's a little bit like Jerry and Esther being in Phoenix and looking forward to being in San Diego and wanting to be in San Diego but having the 400-mile journey if being there is what matters to them. And so in the analogy that we are comparing here, San Diego is the passion that you're wanting to achieve, and you might be on your way to it. And we want you to relax and be satisfied that you're moving in the direction of it. Contrast causes you to launch a desire. And the more attention you give to that desire, the more energy it accumulates. So when you focus upon something and you don't contradict it with doubtful thoughts, that desire begins to summon energy in a very powerful way. So the specific answer to your question, how do I achieve and sustain passion, is focus upon what you want and never focus in contradiction to what you want, and you would maintain eternally that passionate perspective. Passion is the symptom of fast-moving, non-resisted energy.
Okay, I've got another question, may I? On the total other end of the scale, there's grief. And I can't imagine not feeling grief if somebody that I love dies. And yet, you seem to be saying, just get over it. And is there a sort of an appropriate amount of grief? Is there... I mean, it seems to me it's got to be natural. I mean, if my dog died, I would just be floored.
The perfect amount of grief is none. But you see...
How do you do that? I mean, because your relationship has changed. You have your beloved dog there, and then he's not there, and the relationship is different.
We know that there are things that are going to happen that are going to make you feel that way. But do you know what the emotion, the visceral feeling, that feeling in your body of grief or fear or despair, they are, no matter what word you assign to it, in every single case, it is because of your perception that something bad has happened to which you are having this awful emotional response and over which you have no control. And we're just wanting to point out to you that while it is absolutely normal to have knee-jerk responses to those things that are happening, because of course you want that person to be in your experience longer or that animal to be in your experience longer, it is the conscious awareness that you do have the ability to focus your way out of that grief. That's the thing that we want to leave. We would not want to say to anyone, you should not be sad when your mother dies or when your father dies. But we do want to say the reason that you are sad is because you've focused yourself in a way that is causing that sadness. And you could just as easily focus yourself in a way that isn't so sad. And it is that awareness that you can focus yourself, because you see, the fear itself or the negative emotion itself, the reason it feels so awful is without exception because of your perception of loss of control. Think about that. On one end of the emotional scale is passion and love and appreciation, and as you move down the emotional scale, and we mean more resistance, less allowing, into that from optimism into pessimism, into frustration and overwhelmment, into those vibrations that are even denser of anger and rage and revenge and fear and despair or grief. As you move down or up this emotional scale, the thing that we want you to realize is the better it feels, the more your perception of freedom, the more your perception of being able to feel the way you want to feel. And the worse it feels, it's your perception of something happening out of your control where you are forced to face it and forced to feel it and unable to do anything about it. That is what the emotional scale is all about. And so when we say the appropriate amount of grief is none, done, what we are really meaning is we want you to know unequivocally, undeniably, in every instance of your life that you have the wherewithal to focus in a way that allows the energy, that passionate energy that you're talking about, to flow.
Okay, so in the middle of the scale, we've gone from one end to the other. In the middle is contentment. I mean, if you're always content and everything is all is well, and why would you ever move from there? I mean, why would you ever do anything? You could just be content.
We're glad that you bring this up, because let's talk about contentment in its fullest definition. So we would define contentment as the perfect balance in this moment between my focused desire and my expectation. In other words, I want it and I'm expecting it. Now, come with us with the vision of being in an airplane at 50,000 feet, going 700 miles across the sky, and looking out the window and everything's going by just fine. We'd call that contentment. Now put that same aircraft on the ground. Not so comfortable. The resistance of the ground makes that 700 miles an hour make you want a long, long runway. So we're going to take you to a new place, or you're taking us to a new place here. So you've been hearing us say that as you reach for the best feeling thought you can find, and you manage to move yourself up this emotional scale, we have noticed that there is no ending to the relief that you're capable of finding, which means that feeling of contentment, that you're right, we put smack dab in the middle of that scale, that feeling of contentment can move as your desires and expectations change. And so things that would have just knocked you over, that you would have said, I'm passionate about at one time, now you feel rather content about them because you have vibrationally prepared yourself for the achieving of that, you see. So we would like to redefine that contentment just a little bit by saying that what you're always reaching for, what the emotional guidance system is about, and now as we're saying it in these new words, these vibrational points of relativity, what your work is always the same. It is to bring yourself into alignment.
Well, it almost sounds like contentment should be on the high end of the scale then, because if that's the perfect balance, I mean, well, why is passion better, or isn't it?
It's an individual thing. In other words, this rudimentary scale that we've defined there is to try to help people become aware, first of all, that they have emotions, and that the emotions that they have are indications of their vibrational relativity. In other words, most people are not managing their energy at all. They would rather take action and try to make the action fix things rather than getting to the heart of the vibration, which then makes everything come easily for you. As you're reaching for that passion and finding vibrational alignment with it and maintaining it, and then life begins to fill in around it, pretty soon that becomes your central place. In other words, you just keep reaching. So for now you say passion would feel better, and we say when you get to the place where passion is your norm, you'll call it contentment. And then you'll be reaching for further passionate things. In other words, your question has given us the best way of explaining this ever-evolving capacity to desire, and what we notice is that the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets, the better it gets.
Thanks.
Yes, indeed.
It's great.
Yes, indeed.